Mark and I had a beautiful start. Our marriage felt like a safe harbor, filled with laughter and quiet understanding. We built our home together, brick by brick, dream by dream. I felt truly blessed to have a partner who saw me, really saw me, and loved me for who I was. Life felt good, simple, and full of promise. I believed in us completely. My sister, Emily, was always a part of my life. She seemed happy for us, at least on the surface. She started dropping by more often, saying she just wanted to help out. I appreciated her offers at first. It felt like family support. I thought her visits were harmless and well-intentioned. I had no reason to think otherwise. Emily often brought over home-cooked meals. She knew Mark's favorite dishes and made them perfectly. I noticed Mark always seemed extra happy with her cooking. It was a small thing, but a tiny seed of doubt began to form. I wondered if I was imagining it, but it felt like her meals were always just a little bit better than mine. I tried to shake off the feeling. Emily also started accidentally leaving things at our house. A scarf, a book, sometimes even a small piece of jewelry. It meant she had a reason to come back the next day. I found myself tidying up after her more and more. It felt like she was slowly, subtly, embedding herself into our daily lives. I tried to tell myself it was just carelessness. She would make comments, too, always in a soft voice, like she was just trying to be helpful. "Oh, Sarah, is that how you organize your pantry? Or Mark seems to prefer his coffee a certain way, doesn't he?" Mark would usually just laugh it off, saying Emily was just being Emily. But her words made me feel a little less capable, a little less sure of myself in my own home. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I started noticing Emily talking to Mark when I wasn't right there. Their voices would drop a little. Sometimes I'd catch a phrase about my stress or my busy schedule. It felt like she was subtly painting a picture of me to Mark, a picture that wasn't quite right. I wondered what else she was saying, what seeds she was planting. It made me feel uneasy and a little paranoid. Small arguments started to pop up between Mark and me, things we never used to bicker about. A messy counter, a forgotten chore, a difference in opinion about a dinner plan. After Emily left, the house felt heavier, and our usual easy rhythm was off-kilter. I couldn't pinpoint it, but it felt like her visits left a lingering tension in the air. I felt confused and frustrated. One evening, Emily stayed late. Mark and I were watching a movie. She sat herself right between us on the sofa, leaning into Mark to whisper something about the film. It felt like a physical barrier. I felt a jolt of alarm, a clear boundary crossed. Mark didn't seem to notice, just chuckled at her comment. I felt dismissed, an outsider in my own space. My heart hammered with a strange mix of anger and hurt. After that night, a cold unease settled deep inside me. Emily's sweet facade no longer felt genuine. My gut told me something was deeply wrong, even though I couldn't explain it. It was a quiet whisper of suspicion, growing louder with each passing day. I tried to rationalize it, to tell myself I was overreacting, but the feeling persisted. I felt a growing sense of dread. Mark, too, seemed subtly different. He was still loving, but there was a new distance, a slight withdrawal I couldn't quite grasp. He was often on his phone or just quieter. I wondered if it was just my imagination, fueled by my growing anxieties about Emily. But the warmth that used to fill our home felt a little cooler, and I started to feel a profound loneliness, even when he was right there beside me. I knew I needed to understand what was happening. Emily had a way of twisting things. One morning, I mentioned a plan we had discussed, something she had clearly agreed to. She looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "I never said that, Sarah," she replied, her voice soft. "Are you sure you heard me right?" My stomach fluttered. I felt a chill, a sudden doubt in my own memory. Had I imagined it? It was a small thing, but it left me feeling off balance, questioning myself. Later that week, I tried to talk to Mark about a comment Emily made, something that felt like a subtle jab at my decorating choices. She probably didn't mean anything by it, Sarah, he said, sounding a little tired. You're reading too much into things lately. Emily had been there, listening, and just offered a sympathetic sigh. I felt a wave of frustration. It was as if my feelings were being dismissed, and I started to wonder if I was truly just overly sensitive. Emily started helping Mark with tasks I usually handled. One evening, she brought up a bill I hadn't paid yet, saying, "Oh, Sarah's been so busy, I just took care of this for you, Mark." She made it sound like I was neglectful. Mark thanked her, but I saw a flicker of concern in his eyes as he looked at me. I felt a deep blush spread across my face. It was a calculated move, making me look bad without ever directly accusing me. The small incidents piled up. I found myself second-guessing everything. Did I lock the door? Did I send that email? My mind raced, trying to recall every detail of conversations, every action. I felt a constant knot in my chest. Sleep became difficult, filled with restless thoughts and replays of Emily's subtle digs. I felt like I was losing my grip, my confidence eroding day by day. Mark's patience with me began to fray. He would sigh more often when I brought up my concerns about Emily. "Can we just drop it, Sarah?" he'd say, his voice strained. "She's your sister. She's just trying to help." His words stung. I felt increasingly isolated, as if the person who understood me best was now seeing me through a distorted lens. The distance between us grew, silent and cold. I couldn't hold it in anymore. One afternoon, when Emily was over, I pulled her aside. "Emily," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "I feel like you've been undermining me." She looked genuinely shocked. Her eyes welled up with tears. "Sarah, how could you say that? I've only ever wanted to support you. Are you jealous of my relationship with Mark?" Her words twisted the knife. I felt a mix of anger and confusion, unsure how to respond to her sudden tears. Desperate, I called my best friend, Lisa. I poured out everything, the gaslighting, the subtle jabs, Mark's growing distance. Lisa listened patiently, but I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "Emily, but she's always been so sweet," she said, sounding confused. "Are you sure you're not just stressed?" Her doubt was like a punch to the gut. I realized how hard it was to explain, how insidious Emily's tactics truly were. During our anniversary dinner, a rare night out for Mark and me, Emily called, supposedly just checking in. She kept Mark on the phone for what felt like forever, talking about a crisis at her job that sounded suspiciously trivial. Mark looked apologetic, but the moment was broken. The romantic atmosphere we had tried to create dissolved. I felt a cold dread, realizing she had deliberately intruded, stealing our special time. That night, I started a small notebook. I began to write down every odd comment, every strange glance, every accidental interference. It felt almost obsessive, but I needed proof, something tangible to fight the feeling that I was losing my mind. Seeing the words on paper, the pattern started to emerge, slowly, chillingly clear. I felt a faint flicker of control, a small step towards understanding. The true horror hit me during a family gathering. I walked past the kitchen doorway and stopped. Emily was laughing, a low, secretive sound. Mark was leaning against the counter, a look on his face I had never seen directed at anyone but me, a look of deep, shared intimacy. "She'll never know," Emily whispered, her hand briefly touching his arm. My breath caught. The words, the look, the touch, it solidified everything. It wasn't paranoia, it was real. The words "she'll never know" echoed in my mind. That look on Mark's face, the secret touch, it wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was a cold, hard truth. My sister, my own flesh and blood, was actively working against me. A wave of nausea washed over me, quickly replaced by a fierce determination. I had to know everything. I had to fight for my marriage, for my life. Over the next few days, I became a silent observer in my own home. I watched Emily's every move, listened to her every word. I noticed how she would subtly touch Mark's arm when she spoke, how her eyes lingered on him. I began to leave my phone recording in another room when she was over, just a whisper of doubt pushing me to these lengths. I felt a deep shame for doing it, but a deeper fear of losing Mark. The evidence started to appear. I found deleted messages on Mark's tablet, too quickly removed for me to read fully, but enough to know they were from Emily and clearly flirtatious. I saw a call log showing Emily had called Mark late at night, long after she was supposed to be asleep. It wasn't just help anymore. It was a calculated attack. My hands trembled as I saw the proof, my stomach twisting into knots. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Emily wasn't just trying to make me look bad. She was trying to replace me. She wanted my life, my husband. The realization hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. The sister I had loved and trusted was a stranger, a predator in disguise. My world, which had felt so solid, began to crumble around me. The pain was immense, a sharp, piercing agony. I knew I had to talk to Mark. It was the hardest conversation I had ever faced. I sat him down, my voice shaking but firm. "Mark," I began, "I need you to listen to me. Emily has been trying to sabotage our marriage." I laid out the evidence, the deleted messages, the late-night calls, the subtle manipulations I had witnessed. I watched his face for any sign of understanding, any flicker of belief. Mark listened, but his expression was a mix of confusion and disbelief. "Sarah, this sounds extreme," he said, his voice hesitant. "Emily, she's your sister. She loves you. Are you sure you're not just stressed?" His words were a cold wave washing over me. He wasn't seeing it. He was defending her. I felt a profound loneliness, isolated in my own truth, watching the man I loved doubt my sanity. The pain was almost unbearable. My own husband, the one person who should have stood by me, couldn't see the depth of my sister's betrayal. It felt like a double betrayal. Not only was Emily trying to steal my life, but she had managed to put a wedge between Mark and me. The thought that my sister, my own flesh and blood, wanted to replace me was a constant, searing ache in my heart. I felt utterly heartbroken and lost. I decided Emily needed to be confronted directly with Mark present. I called her over. When I told her what I knew, her reaction was immediate. Tears sprang to her eyes. "Sarah, how could you accuse me of such a thing?" she cried, turning to Mark. "I've only ever wanted to help you both. This is just your jealousy talking, isn't it, Sarah?" She played the victim perfectly, her innocent act making my blood run cold. Emily's performance was Oscar-worthy, but something shifted in Mark's eyes. Maybe it was her quick tears, or the way she tried to turn it back on me so fast. Or maybe it was my persistence, the quiet, steady way I laid out the facts, even as she cried. He started to look at her differently, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. It was a tiny crack in her facade, but it gave me a spark of hope. Our marital trust was severely bruised, but I could see a change in Mark. He began to question Emily's actions, to truly listen to my concerns. The path ahead was still blurry, filled with uncertainty and the deep wounds left by Emily's betrayal. But my determination to save my marriage was stronger than my despair. We had to fix this together. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but at least, finally, we were on the same side. After Emily's performance, a quiet understanding settled between Mark and me. He finally saw what I had been fighting against alone. We talked late into the night, piecing together all the subtle manipulations, all the times Emily had driven a wedge between us. His apologies were heartfelt, and I felt a fragile hope bloom. We were a team again, and it was a powerful feeling. I knew we had to confront Emily, not just for me, but for us. The next day, Mark and I sat Emily down. "Emily," I said, my voice steady, "we know what you've been doing." Mark nodded beside me, his presence a solid wall of support. Emily's face crumpled instantly. "How could you accuse me?" She wailed, tears already streaming. "I've only ever loved you, Sarah. This is a terrible misunderstanding." Her act was flawless, but this time it didn't work on either of us. I felt a cold calm, seeing her for who she truly was. We presented her with the facts, calmly listing the incidents, the messages, the late-night calls. Mark spoke about how he'd been misled, how he now saw her actions clearly. Under the relentless pressure, Emily's composure began to fray. Her voice rose, her tears stopped, replaced by a bitter sneer. "You always had everything, Sarah." She spat, her mask completely gone. "And you never deserved it." The venom in her voice was chilling. My heart ached, seeing such raw hatred from my own sister. We knew we couldn't keep this to ourselves. Later that week, we called a family meeting. My parents, our older brother, everyone was there. As Mark and I explained everything, the room filled with an uneasy silence. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. My father looked bewildered. It was hard for them to grasp, to accept that their sweet Emily could be capable of such malice. I watched their faces, hoping for understanding. Emily, of course, doubled down on her victim act. She cried, she begged, she accused me of being mentally unstable and jealous. My brother, bless his heart, tried to mediate, but my Aunt Emily's favorite spoke up. "Sarah, this is extreme," she said, her voice filled with doubt. "Emily would never do such a thing. Are you sure you're not just imagining things?" Her words were a fresh sting. It hurt to be doubted, to have my pain dismissed by my own family. The family meeting ended in chaos with no clear resolution. Mark and I retreated, exhausted but united. We knew our marriage needed deep healing. We spent hours talking, not just about Emily, but about us, about the cracks her manipulation had created. We revisited old arguments, seeing them now through a new, clearer lens. It was painful work, but each honest conversation felt like a stitch closing a wound. I felt a quiet determination to rebuild what she had tried to shatter. Even from a distance, Emily continued her psychological warfare. I started hearing whispers, rumors about me being unhinged or overly dramatic. Friends, even some distant relatives, would call me, asking if I was okay, their voices laced with concern that felt more like pity. It was clear Emily was still trying to isolate me, to paint me as the villain. The constant barrage was draining, and I felt a profound weariness settle in my bones. Mark and I made a difficult decision. We couldn't allow Emily's toxicity to continue poisoning our lives. We sent her a clear message, through our brother, that we needed space. We set firm boundaries. No more unscheduled visits, no more private calls with Mark, and limited contact only if absolutely necessary for family events. It was painful, severing ties with someone who had once been my closest confidante. My heart ached for the sister I thought I knew, a sister who never truly existed. The emotional toll was immense. I spent many nights staring into the darkness, grappling with the profound disillusionment. How could my own sister harbor such deep-seated envy? I replayed childhood memories, searching for clues, for moments I might have overlooked. I started to see patterns, small acts of passive aggression, subtle competitions that I had always dismissed as sisterly rivalry. The realization that this had been building for years, perhaps my whole life, was a heavy burden to bear. I mourned the loss of a relationship I cherished, a bond that had been a lie. Mark and I decided to seek professional help, not just for our marriage, but for me to process the trauma of Emily's betrayal. It was a step towards healing, towards reclaiming our peace. The path ahead was still uncertain, and the wounds were deep, but I felt a renewed strength. I had faced the unthinkable, and I had survived. I knew now more than ever that I would do whatever it took to protect my family, to protect our happiness from anyone, even my own flesh and blood. This was just the beginning of our journey to reclaim our lives. Months passed. Mark and I worked hard on our marriage. We went to therapy together, talking for hours, really listening to each other. The trust slowly grew back, like a fragile plant after a storm. It wasn't easy, but every honest conversation brought us closer. We were building something stronger from the broken pieces, a foundation that Emily's manipulations could not shake. I felt a quiet determination to protect what we had rebuilt, knowing its value now more than ever. I continued my own therapy. I had to process everything that had happened. The betrayal, the deep shock that my own sister could do such a thing. It felt like mourning someone who was still alive, a profound loss of a relationship I thought was real. I learned to be kind to myself, to accept that my feelings were valid. It was a slow, painful process, but with each session, I felt myself getting stronger, slowly healing from the inside out. Our wider family was still fractured. Some relatives understood and supported us, offering quiet comfort. Others chose to believe Emily's version of events or simply avoided the topic altogether, too uncomfortable to face the truth. My parents struggled the most. They loved both their daughters, but they couldn't reconcile the harsh reality. It was a quiet sadness that settled over our family gatherings, a permanent shift in how we related to each other. The easy warmth was gone, replaced by a lingering chill. Emily herself faded from our lives. We kept our distance, a firm boundary that allowed us to finally breathe. There were no more dramatic confrontations, no more whispered accusations. I heard she moved away, started a new job in a different city. I didn't seek updates, and none came my way. Her absence was a profound relief, a silence I had desperately needed to find peace. It was the only way for me to truly move forward. I spent many quiet moments thinking about trust. How easily it could be broken, how incredibly hard it was to rebuild. I thought about what family truly meant, not just blood, but who truly stood by you when everything fell apart. And envy, how it could twist a person until they were unrecognizable, turning love into malice. It was a dark lesson, one I never wanted to learn, but one that had shaped me in profound ways. One morning, I woke up and felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. The constant knot in my stomach was gone. I realized how strong I had become, stronger than I ever thought possible. I had faced the worst betrayal imaginable, and somehow I had come through it. I was still standing, not just surviving, but thriving. It was a profound sense of peace, a quiet triumph that settled deep within my soul. I felt truly free. I learned to listen to my gut, to recognize the subtle signs of manipulation and deceit. I learned to value the people who truly supported me, who didn't dismiss my feelings or try to twist my reality. My happiness was precious, a fragile thing that I now knew I had to protect fiercely from anyone who tried to harm it, no matter who they were. These were lessons carved into my heart, guiding my every step forward. My definition of family changed completely. It wasn't just about blood anymore. It was about connection, about loyalty, about unconditional love and unwavering support. Mark and I built our own strong unit, a safe haven. Our friends became like siblings, our chosen family who wrapped us in warmth and understanding. There was a deep comfort in these new, honest connections, a sense of belonging that felt more real than anything I had known before. Sometimes, a fleeting thought of Emily would still surface, a distant echo from a painful past, but it no longer held power over me. The sharp pain had dulled to a quiet, almost imperceptible ache. I wished her well, in a detached, distant way, hoping she found some peace of her own. My life was moving forward, and she was no longer a part of it. My resolve was firm, my emotional distance complete, a necessary shield. My world had been shattered, ripped apart by betrayal, but I had painstakingly pieced it back together. It was stronger now, and in a strange way more beautiful because it was built on truth and resilience. I had faced the unthinkable, fought for my marriage, for my peace, and I had won. The future felt bright, free from the shadows of manipulation. I was ready to live, truly live, with an open heart and a clear mind, embracing a healthier, happier life.